Hello, my dear student. Today I am again here with the topic tribal dikus and vision of golden age of class 8 social study. So in this chapter we are going to cover many things. So before starting our session, I would like to tell the things which we are going to have a discussion on the following topic. So what are the learning objectives out here in this lesson is that the first one, we are going to have a session of introduction, life and livelihood of tribal peoples, effect of colonial rule on tribes, the impact of new forest laws, Birsa Munda and his achievement. So these are the things which we are going to cover in this session. Okay, moving towards another slide. So let us have the introduction of this chapter. So you can see over in this image of India, the flag of British East India Company. So this chapter discusses how the ancient tribes struggled under the British Empire in India and how they fought for their freedom. So these are the things in which we are going to have a discussion. Okay, moving forward, let us know who are known as the tribes. The tribes are people who lead a different form of life, the people of a mainstream of the society. That means the tribal people are those peoples who are living away from the human society, having a different customs, having a different rituals and having a different cultural identity. So you can look over in this picture tribal people having a different costume outfit and having a different kinds of things which they are carrying in their shoulder and the back. Now, let us know about life and livelihood of the tribal. Here you can clearly see the picture of the tribe, and you can see the face of the true tribal girl having a different tattoos in their face and decked with a different ornament in their forehead. And you can also see the kinds of living lifestyle, the house type they are living through. Now, moving towards how did tribal groups live. So this is the important part of this chapter. So by the 19th century, tribal people in different parts of India were involved in a variety of activities. So some are Jhum cultivators, hunters and gatherers, pastoralists, herding and settled cultivation. So these are the things which they are engaging themselves as a kind of activity. Okay, now let's know about what is Jhum cultivator. A Jhum cultivator is also known as a shifting cultivation. So over here, what you can see in the middle portion of the forest, the area has been cleared. So why this area is cleared? In order to do a cultivation, in order to do a farming activity. So Jhum cultivation is a shifting cultivation. This was done on small patches of land, mostly in the forest. The cultivator cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground and brought the vegetable on the land to clear it for cultivation. So what they are doing, what is the kind of activities that they are doing? So we call it a shifting, or we call it a Jhum cultivators. They clear the forest area, they brought all the trees and the other things that are available out there, and they use those assets as the manure in order to do a cultivation activity. So the assets are utilized as a fertilizer. Now the Jhum cultivators, so you can clearly see the area where the tribal people are doing cultivation. So what they will do, as usual, as like all the farmers do, they sow a seed and they harvest it. And what they will do, they do a farming activity out there for 3 to 4 years, and again they will move from that place to another place. This is how it is also known as a shifting cultivation. यसै कारणले यसलाई हामी शिफ्टिङ कल्टिभेसन पनि भन्छ. किन भन्दा एउटा जग्गाबाट अर्को जग्गामा उनीहरू सरुवा गर्छन् एग्रिकल्चर एक्टिभिटिज गर्नुको लागि चाहिँ. सो वाइ दे मुभ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ बिकज आफ्टर डुइङ द कल्टिभेसन अफ देयर फर 4-5 years, the fertility of the land will be gone, and again they will search a new place where they can do agricultural activity, and then again they do the same process of clearing the forest burning all those things, using SS as a manure, and doing agricultural activity there for 4-5 years, and they will leave the land for more than 6-7 years, and that land will left as a fallow land or barren land. I hope you understood this one. Now, another one is hunter and gatherer. So in our first lesson that I had already made you clear regarding the hunter and the gatherers. Hunter are those people who kill animals from the forest, and gatherers, they used to collect different types of materials which are needed for their self-sustaining of the life. They gather different types of berries, roots, fruits, vegetables, and different types of medicinal plants also, so that they could use it in their life. This is how hunter and gatherers used to have their life at the time. Now, hunters and gatherers, as I had already told you about hunters and gatherers, there are many tribal peoples who were regarded as a hunter and gatherers in India. An example, one is the Khon tribe, which is from Orissa. They are from the forest of Orissa. They collect and they hunt, and they divide all the whatever the things they collected from the forest, and they divide it into their tribes. In many regions, tribal groups live by hunting animals and gathering forest product. They saw forest as an essential for survival. So for tribal people, the forest is the only source through which they are living their life. Whatever the things they are required for their livelihood, that they are getting it from the forest. They ate fruits, roots collected from the forest. They cook food with the oil they extracted from sal and mahua. That means they have the knowledge of extracting the oil from the trees, mahua and sal also. But the most preferably they used to hunt and collect things. That's why those tribal people are known as hunter and gatherers. Okay, moving towards the another slide. What we are going to learn here is the pastoralist herding animal. So pastoralist means the person who move with their flocks, with their animals from one place to another place, and their movement is extremely affected by the seasonal change. Why they move? Because of the seasonal, and they move seasonally. If the weather phenomena of a certain region is not good, then they will move from that place to another place. Likewise, there are many examples. In northern part of India, there are many tribal peoples who live out there as a pastoral nomadics with their thousands and millions of their herds. During a winter season, they used to move towards the plain area, and when there will be a hot summer season in the plain areas, again they will shift towards the northern part of India. This is how their movement is affected by the seasonal changes. So this is called a pastoralist, and they herd the animals. So what are the means of their earning? They used to sell the meat, other dairy products, and the skin of those animals, through which they are gaining money. Okay, many tribal groups live by herding and rearing animals. They were pastoralists who moved with their herds or cattle or sheep according to the season. As I had already made it clear that they move according to the season. The Van Gujrals of Punjab, the Gadis of Kulu are example of such a tribe. So this is the movement. That means they are not living in a particular area. They keep moving with their animals. त्यसलाई चाहिँ हामी pastoral भन्छौँ, pastoral nomadic भनेर पनि हामी भन्छौँ. The another is a settled cultivation. You and I, we are living a lifestyle of settled cultivation because our ancestor, our father, our mothers are staying in a proper place. They never move from one place to another place in order to do agricultural activities. So this is how the tribal people also slowly they began to settle. They began to live a settled life also. The tribe settled and cultivated and lived in one area. They got right to land gradually. In some cases, they followed the clan system, and all members of the clan were regarded as original descendants. Likewise, our father, our grandfather, our ancestor, they are living in a particular place, and the legacy is continuing and continuing as we are living in the same land. And what will happen? The property of our ancestor will be gone through their descendants. अर्कोको हातमा जान्छ, अर्कोले पाउँछ है. So this is how the people of the past, the tribal people, they also began to have a settled life. But so slowly, and then what they have began to do, they began to form a group, and then the wisest and the eldest men of their community were considered as the head or the chieftain of their tribe. The British considered them more civilized. The British considered the people who were living a settled life, they were more civilized as compared to those hunters and gatherers, as compared to those people who were continuing with the shifting cultivation. Okay, now here, how did colonial rule affect the tribal life? So colonial means the British East India Company. How did the British administration change the lifestyle of the tribal people? This is what we are going to study in this slide. So how did colonial rule affect the tribal life? What happened to tribal chief? What happened to the shifting cultivation? Forest laws and their impact, the problem with trade, search for food, tribal revolution. So these are the things which I am going to cover in this session. Okay, what happened to the tribal chief? Tribal chief ke bhayo right? Kaha gayo ta? Where did they go? Andakeri say, okay, now during a pre-British rule, the tribal chief were important people. Pre means before the coming of the Britishers in India, the tribal head were regarded as important people of their tribe. But when the British rule was imposed in India, so from there onwards, the tribal chief began to lose their identity. They lost their powers considerably. They were not allowed to keep land titles and rent out lands. That means everything whatever they were doing, every guidelines, rights, rituals as they were performing were taken out by the British, as they kept with the harsh law for the tribal people. They lost administrative power. That means now the tribal people have to work accordingly to the administrative guidelines of the Britishers in India. They were forced to follow the laws set by the British. So this is the things happened with the tribal chief. Now the tribal chief were not only the sole owner and the sole person of the whole tribe. We can't take decisions on behalf of the tribe. Now it's Britishers who had imposed many rules and regulations, many different types of guidelines. And what are the things they were allowed to do? They had to pay tribute to the British and discipline tribal groups on behalf of the British. So that means now they have to pay a tribute, they have to pay money, they have to pay revenue to the Britishers, and they have to be a disciplined one, and they have to be a disciplined tribal groups on behalf of the Britishers. They were unable to fulfill traditional functions. So whatever the functions that they were doing, as tribals are always known for their traditional functions, they are known for their rituals, but now all these things were abolished. They were not allowed to do any rituals, they were not allowed to do any functions. It is all because of the British new kind of policy, a very harsh policy that has been imposed by the Britishers, forced the tribal people to give up the practices, to perform the different rituals and the functions. Now what happened to the shifting cultivators? As I had already made you clear in the previous slide, that the shifting cultivators are the low tribal groups who move from one place to another place in search of agricultural land in order to cultivate, and they will cultivate there for 3 to 4 years, and again then they will move to another place, and again then again, that is the movement from one place to another place. So that is a shifting. Now के भयो उनीहरुलाई भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ so there was always in the mind of Britishers that it was easy for them to govern the people who are organized, who are living in a same society, but it was almost impossible for them to govern those people who are scattered here and there, who move one place to another place. हामी पनि त्यही देख्छौं हाम्रो वरिपरि सराउन्डिङमा जुन चीज एक जुप्पामा भएर बसेको छ, पर्मानेन्टली एउटा चीजमा गइसकेपछि हामीलाई त्यो कुरालाई समेट्नु हामीलाई सजिलो पर्छ, whereas यता उता चरी हिँड्ने घुमी हिँड्ने त्यस्तै खालको छुत्ता छुल्ल भएर हिँडेको चिजलाई चाहिँ हामी के गर्न सक्दैनौँ, हामी एकैचोटि बाँधेर राख्न सक्दैनौँ। हामीले इम्पोज गरेको रुल्स एन्ड रेगुलेसन दे विल नट फलो। दिस इज हाउ द ब्रिटिसर्स फिल. So they also wanted a regular amount of income, thus they introduced land settlement. So what was the reason behind the introduction of land settlement by the Britishers? Because they wanted to have a good amount of income. How they can generate? They can only generate it through by imposing a different types of land revenue settlements. Right? And you how it is possible? If the tribal people began to live in a particular place, then this rule can be imposed and there will be a regular flow of income. So this is the idea why the Britishers came with a different kinds of new rules and regulation laws. Okay. Revenue was fixed, peasant was declared landowners, but they were not successful in setting the zoom cultivator, as in areas where water was scarce and soil dry cultivation was not possible. So what the Britishers did? They fixed the revenue. Then peasants were declared landowners. They gave a certain portion of the land to the peasants and they now began to collect the revenue from them. But they were not successful in settling the zoom cultivator. It was a failure of the Britishers, as they were not able to settle the zoom cultivators. जो शिफ्टिङ कल्टिभेट गर्दै हिँड्ने जति पनि ट्राइबल पिपल्सहरू थियो उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ एकै ठाउँमा ल्याएर उनीहरूले राख्न सकेन. किन भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो मेनी प्रब्लम्स लाइक वाटर स्क्यासिटी भयो एन्ड सिजनल चेन्जेस है, वेदर फिनोमेनाको कारणले गर्दाखेरि, सोइल ड्राई भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि. सो दिस इज हाउ in somehow the Britishers were also not successful in order to organize those tribal people in order to stay in some particular place. So eventually the British had to allow them to practice shifting. अनि यसबाट पनि ब्रिटिसले के गर्न थाल्यो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ, so by considering all these facts, they allowed the tribal people to continue with their shifting cultivation also. Okay, now the forest laws and their impact. British imposed a very harsh forest laws. उनीहरूले एकदमै forest laws-हरु लगाउन थाल्यो. किन भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ, as I had already told you that they want a regular flow of income. So how this can be possible? This can be only possible when the tribal people are organized. When the tribal people will be kept in some particular place. अब हामी आफै विचार गरौँ, यदि हामी एक ठाउँमा बस्छौँ न, एउटा चलन छ नि, भतुवा कुकुर हुन्छ नि, न घरको न घाटको हुन्छ. कसैको प्यारो हुँदैन, उसलाई केही मतलब पनि हुँदैन, यता खायो उता खायो, यता खायो उता खायो है, त्यसलाई केयर पनि पाउँदैन. र त्यस्तै प्रकारको चाहिँ ट्राइबल पिपल पनि एउटा जान्छ उता जान्छ, अन्त उनीहरूलाई के थियो, उनीहरूलाई रेभेन्यू माग्यो भने पनि उनीहरूले किन दिन्थ्यो, किनभने दे आर नट गोइङ टु लिभ देयर फर पर्मानेन्टमा त बस्ने कामै छैन है. र हाम्रो ह्युमन मेन्टालिटी पनि त्यस, जब हामी कुनै जग्गामा पर्मानेन्टली हामी बस्छौँ भने हामी त्यसको लागि पेमेन्टहरू केहरू दिन सक्छौँ. तर आज एउटा घरमा, आज भोलि अर्को घरमा यसो गरेर चाहिँ हामी के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामी वी वन्ट फलो द सर्टेन रुल्स एन्ड रेगुलेसन्स, गाइडलाइन्सहरू हामी फलो गर्दैनौँ न, त्यस्तै प्रकारको भयो. सो फरेस्ट लज एन्ड देयर इम्प्याक्ट. सो ब्रिटिस केम अप विथ द न्यू काइन्ड्स अफ फरेस्ट ल. अब यो फरेस्ट लजले वाट आर द नेगेटिभ इम्प्याक्ट on the tribal people? Okay, here we are going to learn about this one. Okay, tribal lives dependent on forest. It has been already made clear that tribal are those peoples who are completely dependent in the forest for their survival. Whatever the things they are needed in their lifestyle, that they are getting it from the forest. उनीहरूले फरेस्टबाट मात्रै पाउँथ्यो उनीहरूले है. र ब्रिटिसले के गर्यो भन्दा ब्रिटिस डिक्लेयर फरेस्ट एज अ स्टेट प्रपर्टी. उनीहरूले आफ्नो अन्डरमा ल्यायो. फरेस्ट चाहिँ जति पनि छ इज अ स्टेट प्रपर्टी भनेर उनीहरूले दिए इम्पोजहरू. नाउ सम वे डिक्लेयर रिजर्भ फरेस्ट, रिजर्भ केही चिजको लागि राखिएको भनेर उनीहरूले त्यसरी चाहिँ उनीहरूले नयाँ रुल्सहरू ल्यायो है. इन दिस फरेस्ट ट्राइबल्स वेयर नट एलाउड जुम cultivation, move freely, collect forest produce, hunt animals. As we had already studied that tribals are the hunter and gatherers, tribals are the nomadic people, tribals are the pastoralists, tribals are the shifting cultivation गर्थे उनीहरूले. यो पढ्यो. अब यो सबै कुरामा उनीहरूले के भयो, रोक लगाइदियो. दे फ्रेम अ न्यू ल. अब यो फरेस्ट लज भनेको के हो भन्दाखेरि, फरेस्ट लज भनेको चाहिँ, फरेस्ट these things are not allowed to do in the forest. यो उनीहरूले चाहिँ गर्यो. अब यसबाट के छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ it left a deep impact in the lifestyle of the tribal people. है ट्राइबल पिपलको लाइफस्टाइलमा नै के भयो यसले चाहिँ एउटा इम्प्याक्ट ल्यायो, एउटा इफेक्ट भयो उनीहरूलाई है. Tribal lost livelihood and forced to move in search of work. That means what happened? If they are not getting an opportunity to go and collect the hunt in order to practice agriculture in the forest area, then obviously what happened? They will left unemployed. They won't pay anything in order to have their basic necessity of the life. Right? Then after give up, they began to move. They scattered by and colonial officer offered June cultivator a small land in rent for cheap labor. उनीहरूले के अफर गर्यो है? By taking all these things into consideration, right? By taking opportunity from this thing, the Britishers they offered the June cultivators, the shifting cultivators, like उनीहरूले के अफर गर्यो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ okay, we are going to give you a certain portion of land, you have to live there. तिमीहरू त्यहाँ बस, then continue with your farming activity. For but in a cheap labor, एकदम कम्ती उयसमा वेजेसमा चाहिँ भनेर चाहिँ उनीहरूले यस्तो खालके they came up with this kinds of idea. Okay, now there was another problem with the tribal people, that is the problem of trade. अब के भयो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ that the Britishers were engaging a lot of tribal people in order to produce many things from them. And what they were doing then, they were exporting those products from India to England, and they were purchasing those materials from the Indian farmers in a very low price, and they are exporting there in England, and they were selling in a very big price. So British traders sent agents in order to collect the things. Agents lent money to tribal to grow more coconuts. So tribal people were encouraged to grow more coconut. त्यसको इन्भेस्ट कसले गर्थ्यो भन्दा ब्रिटिसले गर्थ्यो. अनि जब बादमा गएर प्रोडक्सन हुन्थ्यो, कोकोनट निस्किन्थ्यो, त्यो कोकोनटको दाम कसले फिक्स गर्थ्यो? ट्राइबल पिपलले गर्दैन थियो, ब्रिटिसले गर्थ्यो है. ग्रोवर्स वर पेड ₹3, ₹4 फर 1000 कोकन्स. अनि जो कोकन सिल्क वर्मको लागि रेयरिङ सिल्क वर्म्स, जुन सिल्कको लुगाहरू लगाउँछ, सिल्कको साडीहरू, सो दिस आर भेरी फेमस एट दैट टाइम. सो दे युज टु गेट ओन्ली ₹3 to 4 फर 1000 कोकन किराको है. बाहिर जुन खोल हुन्छ है सिल्क वर्मको बाहिरला कोकन, त्यसमा only ₹3 and ₹4 मात्रै पाउँथ्यो उनीहरूले. अनि सिल्क एक्सपोर्टेड 5 times the price for the profit of agents. र उसले ₹3 ₹4 पाउँथ्यो भने चाहिँ उता उसले 3 5 जा 15 4 5 जा 20 rupees मा उसले चाहिँ बेच्थ्यो, त्यसरी एक्सपोर्ट गर्थ्यो. द्याट मिन्स हु इज इन लस? अगेन द ट्राइबल पिपल आर इन लस. सो दिस इज हाउ देयर वाज अ प्रब्लम अफ ट्रेड है. उनीहरूकोमा एकदम ह्युज ग्याप आयो. त्यसो गर्दा किन उनीहरूले चाहिँ मान्नु पर्थ्यो? वाइ दे हेभ टु ओबे द ब्रिटिसर्स भन्दाखेरि because the Britishers were paying the money, they were investing money in order to do farming activity, and when the crop will be harvested, again the British will fix the price by themselves. This is how the tribal people have to bear a lot of problem because of this harsh measure that has been deployed by the British. Okay, now the search for work. As I had already told you that because of the forest loss, the many tribal people they will scatter. They don't have any option left. उनीहरुमा केही अप्सनहरु पनि. Okay, so displaced tribal had to go far away to find works as a miners and to work at tea plantation for very miserable work. So that means now what happened is that the people who don't have any work left off, now they have to go in search of work. अनि कहाँ गयो उनीहरु भन्दा चाहिँ प्लान्टेसन भएको जग्गामा, टी गार्डनहरुतिर भयो, त्यस्तो फ्याक्ट्रीहरुतिर. सो दे बिगन टु मुभ देयर द्याट साइड. उनीहरु त्यहाँनिर यसरी जान थाल्यो. अन्त अहिले हामी के देख्छौं? व्हाट वी सी इज दैट द पीपल वी सी लट्स अफ ट्राइबल पीपल, जुन हामीलाई आदिवासी भनेर हामी भन्छौं नि, चिया कमानतिर, चिया बगानतिर हामी पुरा बेसी यस्तो पाउँछौं है. त्यसरी चाहिँ उनीहरु त्यहाँ आयो, एन्ड दे वेयर फोर्स टु सेटल इन द सेम प्लेस. अनि उनीहरूलाई त्यो एरियाबाट बाहिर पनि जानु दिँदैन थियो. त्यस्तो पाराले चाहिँ ब्रिटिसले उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ राख्न थाले त्यति बेला. एन्ड देयर वाज अ ट्राइबल रेभोल्युसन. देन द 5 ट्राइबल रेभोल्युसन आज कोल्स रेभोल्ट, बिर्सा मुभमेन्ट, वार्ली रेभोल्युसन, Santhal revolts, and Basta revolution. These are the 5 revolutions that has been started by the tribal people for the unjust activity that has been posed by the Britishers out in India. And interesting thing के छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ the Kon tribe right of Orissa, They spoke Kui language, a Dravidian language written with the Uriya script. They worshipped trees and animals. They had highest regard to Mother Earth and Niyamgiri hills. They ate fruits and roots collected from the forest. They used many forest herbs for medicinal purpose. So these are the things how the tribal peoples are dependent with the forest. Now, because of the forest law, they were not allowed to practice their activity which they were practicing in their daily life. Okay, now, so this is the tribal people, the Munda, and the tribal people. It is from Chotanagpur, Plateau, and the Birsa Munda. As you had already heard about the Birsa Munda, so he is one of the hero of the tribal community, as he had led his tribal community to fight with the Britishers, to fight with the injustice that they had received from the British. So Birsa, let us know little about the Birsa Munda. So he was born in 1870 and he was the descendant of Munda tribe, and Munda tribe को descendant थियो. Descendant means उसको त्यहाँ जन्मिएको हो है, सन्तानको भनौँ है. He grew up for poor, grazing sheep and playing flute. उसले यो सबै कुराहरु सिक्दै आयो. Heard tales of Munda uprising and revolts. He went to a local missionary school. र there something had happened. What happened भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ, so when he was at missionary school at the time, the Christian missionary told him to convert himself towards the Christian. अनि in replace उसले चाहिँ ल्यान्डहरु पहुँचाउनेको ट्राइबल पिपलले भनेर चाहिँ उसलाई चाहिँ त्यस्तो अफर आएको थियो. But he was completely against all these kinds of activities, and he hid the Christian missionary along with the Hindu landlords, because the harsh revenue system has really made the life of the tribal people a very pathetic one. And Birsa Munda, right, his vision of golden age, and his vision उसले एउटा स्वप्न देखेको थियो जसले चाहिँ उसको पुरा ट्राइबल पिपललाई नै चेन्ज गराउने. So a Satya Yug, when Mundas had been free of the oppression of dikus, he wanted to take out his tribal people from the suppression of the dikus also, and he wanted to have a settled life, right? Cultivation गर्नु भन्दा it should be all based on truth and purity भनेर चाहिँ उनले यो सबै कुरा चाहिँ that was a vision. And there was a movement of Birsa, that is the reforming tribal society, urged the Mundas to give up drinking habits or alcohol को यो habitलाई सबै उनीहरुले छोड्ने, भिलेजलाई क्लीन राख्ने, अनि जति पनि यो विचक्राफ्ट है, सोर्सरी जनि भूत प्रेतहरु लेखेर डाइनहरु जस्तो हामी बोक्सीहरु भन्छ, यस्तो सबै यो गिभ अप गर्ने यस्तो प्र्याक्टिसहरु उले चाहिँ आफ्नो साथ ट्राइबल पिपललाई चाहिँ भनिएको थियो. And the other things, the important values that what we are going to learn from this lesson is that we have to extend our service towards the poor, towards the other section of the society. हामीले जति राम्रो सर्भिस दिन्छौँ त्यति हामीले चाहिँ पाउँछौँ. पोजिटिभ माइन्ड हाम्रो सेटअप हुन्छ, न्यारो माइन्डनेस हाम्रोबाट जान्छ है. whatever the evil qualities that we are having with us, that will be erased by the positive vibes that which we are doing in our life. So this is the value that which we get from this lesson. Okay, thank you guys, have a nice day, and I hope you understood the lesson also. Okay, thank you.